Hello everyone, my name is Peter. I'm a World War II United States Marine Corps living historian. I am part of two groups. The first one is the Old Breed Living Historians, and the second one is Love Company 3rd Battalion 5th Marines. Today I want to create a video for everybody in the hobby that might have some questions on what gear to get and how to wear it for your United States Marine Corps World War II impressions. Over the past few years, there's been a very good effort to really get authentic and get down to the nitty-gritty details of these impressions, and the L35 unit event series has really pushed the limits on the hyper-authentic part of the hobby. So we're going to get right into it with the M1 steel helmet. Right off the bat, the most common helmet worn throughout World War II, both in the Pacific theater and in the European theater. First and foremost, it's a two-piece system. You have the steel pot and the liner. Now, if you want a liner that can really cover you throughout the duration of World War II, the Howley liner with a rayon or a khaki suspension system inside is really going to give you a lot of flexibility with your impressions. Not only can you do 1942 Guadalcanal, but you can also do Okinawa type impressions. So if you can track one down, this is a old drop zone Howley liner. This is really going to get you 99% of the way when it comes to your helmet setup for World War II. So for the steel pot, the most flexible one again is going to be your front seams fixed bail helmet. I do have both of these are restored by Jay Murray. He does a very good job, highly recommend him. But the front seam fixed bail is going to be probably the most common, which you're going to see throughout World War II with the Marines. I do have my front seam swivel bail helmet. If you're not tracking, the bails are just the part that holds the chin strap. The swivel bail one moves. They went to that design because the fixed bail ones would inevitably be break when Marines were messing around with their helmets, sitting on them, doing whatever. So next, really post Guadalcanal, throughout the duration of the war, minus a few campaigns, the Marines are always going to have helmet covers on. Generally speaking, the helmet cover is going to be green side out. So I have two examples right here. These are both from SM Wholesales. This one right here is the yellow base color, and this one here is the green base color. Both were seen throughout the war. It's just different contracts, different die lots when it comes to the coloring of the helmet. So as you'll see with my Howley liner setup, the helmet cover, it has foliage slits. This is going to be the helmet cover you're going to want to find. They did have helmet covers that did not have foliage slits. However, they're not very common, and they would be more isolated to like 1945 type impressions. So with the helmet cover, you'll see this one is nice and form fitted on the helmet. I did cut a slot in there for the chin strap to come through. So you're going to see both variations. This is something that's kind of lacking in the hobby, is more a setup like this, where the Marine just kind of put the helmet cover on. It fits loosely. It's not as form-fitting. Like I said, this is something that's kind of lacking, and if you want to improve your impressions a little bit or just do something a little different, you can rock your helmet just cover loosely fitted, not form in the helmet. When it comes to the chin straps, Marines, you'll often find them just wearing the helmet without the chin straps buckled. So like this, just kind of hanging down. And it's also common to see Marines with the chin straps buckled the way they're intended to. Now, most World War II GI impressions, you'll see the chin strap put up on the back of the helmet. This is not very common for Marines, and definitely do not recommend it for your impression. For soft covers, the most common cover you're going to see is going to be just the Army HBT cap. You can see here I fixed a original Eagle Globe and Anchor to the front of this cap. This is going to be pretty common practice by the Marines throughout the war, and this is going to be the most common HPT cap you're going to see worn by the United States Marines. Second is going to be your Daisy May. Once again, an Army item, EGA affixed to it. The Marines you'll see these 1943, 1944, and 45 in the photos. A lot of times the Marines were under Army command during these operations and would inevitably fall under the Army supply chain when they needed specific equipment. You'll see Marines wearing Army HPTs, Army leggings, Army web gear. It's not an uncommon practice, and it would definitely not hurt your impression to add some Army gear to your kit. Lastly is the Pattern 44 HPT cap. This is very late war, 1945 is really when you're going to see a couple of these pop up, but even then it's not a very common piece of headgear, and would recommend actually shying away from these for your World War II impressions. Save these for Korean War impressions. A couple other covers you'll see Marines wearing. You see I'm wearing the wool overseas cap. You'll see guys wearing these while they're on ship, doing garrison duties, and sometimes in field impressions. They also have the khaki summer version, a little bit more commonly seen in photographs and footage than the wool one, but a couple other options to add to your impression. The next item we're going to talk about is the Pattern 41 Marine Corps utility uniform. If you're getting into the hobby, this is the uniform you're going to want to start with. I know a lot of guys want to get their Pattern 42 camouflage uniforms because they look cool, and while I don't disagree, this uniform is much more flexible. With the P42s, you're going to be very limited to what regiments, what units, and what campaigns you can portray, whereas the P41s will get you everything from Guadalcanal up through the occupation of China post-World War II, and even into Korean War impressions. So this jacket in front of you is the World War II Impressions P41s. These are probably the best ones on the market currently. SMW is another big dealer. His P41s are kind of hit or miss. The cut for the pants is a little baggy. The color is slightly off in some variants. If you actually start sweating in the uniform, which is very probable, they start discoloration, turning purple. So we tend to recommend guys shy away from those right now until SMW can fix a couple of the problems. With the P41s, what you really want to look for, telltale sign that they're P41s, is 2 buttonholes on the sleeves. A lot of originals get passed off as P41s when they're actually P47s, and those will have just a single buttonhole. Obviously you have the Eagle Globe and Anchor on the left breast pocket. With the new ATFs, he did a very good job, with the new World War II impressions, they did a very good job with closing the distance between the pockets from the top and the bottom. Some of his older generations were a lot taller, and the actual cut for the P41s is not very tall. I'm wearing an original blouse right now, and it stops at about my waist. So you don't want big gaps between the pockets. Generally, this top pocket is going to be aligned with the second button down from the top, and you'll see some variation on the placement, but a good reproduction should be generally in line with that. Eagle Globe and Anchor centered on the pocket, and the color is more of a grayish green than an actual olive drab. Khaki thread is going to be the most common when looking at originals compared to reproductions, but another option is the older ATFs if you can find them. Currently they do not make them, but reproductions of those pop up every now and then. If you're just doing living history, you could always go with the original option as long as you're not running around tearing them up, and make sure you're taking good care of your original utilities if you decide to wear them. So once again, this is the World War II Impressions Pattern 41 blouse. All right, for trousers, right here, this example is the older at the front variants. They did a very good job with these reproductions when he came out with them, probably 2011, 2012 timeframe. I think generally when they stopped making them, the Marine Corps did put a copyright on the Eagle Globe and Anchor, so it's been a lot harder for companies to reproduce these without having to go through the legality of producing them. So with the ATFs and P41s in general, a dead giveaway for these is the top button is not exposed. When you go to button the trousers, that should be, the button should not protrude like modern day jeans or cargo pants or whatever. So really not too much to go into with the trousers. You know, this is a good pair. World War II Impressions, his trousers are nice. However, that top button is exposed. Luckily, you know, you're gonna have a belt on with your trousers, so that covers it up. But the old ATFs are good. And those really ATFs and World War II Impressions are gonna be your best bet for the trousers. Trouser belt, just recommend trying to track down an original. Remember that the width of the web belt is a little bit wider than the US Army belt. If you can find an original Army belt, depending on what campaign you're portraying, what unit, that might be an option for you to wear as well. But these original belts can still be had in pretty good sizes for reasonable prices online or just at military shows. And once again, the width being a little wider is what you're looking for, and it's just a brass buckle on this belt. For skivvies, generally I tell guys, if you want to do your impression correctly, if you're on campaign, recommend just not wearing skivvies at all. This seems to be the most common practice during the Second World War with Marines. I think jungles or sandy atolls at extremely hot temperatures. The last thing you want to do is have another layer on. But if you absolutely need to wear a skivvy shirt or skivvy drawers, there's a couple options. This one laid out in front of you is an original. This is what's referred to as a Kelly green t-shirt. These became an issued item in late 43, 44 time frame. And you'll see these actually up until Vietnam in some cases. So there's no real good reproductions currently on the market. There are some guys working some options for us, but a couple things with this shirt, and then I'll show you my reproductions and we'll move on with the video. So first and foremost, it's a tubular design. What that means essentially is when it's spun on the loom, it's in a tube and there's no side seam. Right now, the only guy that's making shirts, and you'd still have to dye them, this Kelly green color, is a company called Mr. Freedom, but their t-shirts are just a little bit thicker. These shirts are extremely thin and therefore didn't last. So when you do find an original, typically you're gonna have to pay up for it. So this is a shirt that myself and a good friend of mine made. This is the SM Wholesales. So luckily for us, they used cotton thread. So when you go ahead and use your RIT dye, it dyes the thread as well. If it's like a poly type thread, you might have a very odd looking shirt with green material and whatever color thread they use when they're putting their shirt together. So we did find a good recipe that's out there, and just dyed this shirt with RIT dye. Unfortunately, this reproduction shirt has a side seam, so when it's worn under the uniform, you can't tell. But for some of us purists, it's like about an 80% solution. This one's nice and thin like the original, and I think the color looks pretty good. They did come issued green, and then there's also instances where Marines were dyeing them in vats of dye on campaign. There's actually a pretty cool reel of this being done on Saipan. Last green shirt option, ATF has these ones. They're decent for what they are. You might need to re-dye it. I've had this one for probably 15 years now. It's definitely seen some better days, but threads dyed the proper color, and this one does have a side seam, so not the best reproduction, but it's if you absolutely need a shirt, this would be a pretty good substitute. I don't have a good reproduction white skivvy t-shirt. That's an option for you. It's seen on campaign. I do have these reproduction white drawers. The Marines had these ones, and then they had some that were the same color as the skivvy shirts, that Kelly green. Once again, I typically do not recommend wearing skivvy shorts. It's just an item that, you know, when you read the veterans accounts, these things didn't really last long on campaign, and when guys did wear them, it was just an extra layer, uncomfortable, caused chafing. So for skivvies, just go ahead and don't wear anything. It'll be much more authentic and a good experience for you. Getting onto the footwear, the most common shoe that's going to be worn is what's referred to as a boondocker or a field shoe. Right now, we're kind of limited in the hobby to SMW is the only one currently making them. And even with their reproductions, there's going to be some work that's going to be required to be done for these things to really get you off the ground with your authentic impression. So right here, these are the SM Wholesale's boondockers, and they're very good service shoes. I've not really had too many issues. The biggest thing that I hear guys talk about is the eyelets falling out. One way you can avoid that is just try not to dub the eyelets as much as you would the rest of the shoe. The dubbing kind of loosens up the fibers and all the stuff that makes up the leather, and can cause those eyelets to fall out. So the biggest thing with the SMWs is when you get them from SMW, they're not going to have raw corded soles. So if you're not aware, the Marine Corps and the Navy, their field shoes had cord put into the rubber that was supposed to help with grip while walking around on the decks of the ships when they're wet. So you're going to have to send these off to a shoe cobbler to have the proper soles put on. A place called Dr. Soles out of Taiwan makes decent reproductions. They're not great. As you can see, the plugs are gray. I think they do have ones that are black. They're not as noticeable, but you're gonna have to get these upgraded to be a little bit more authentic with those raw corded soles. So SMWs are good. They're just going up in price, unfortunately, these days, but gonna be pretty much the only option right now if you need to buy new. The ideal boondockers to have are the last generation of at the fronts. He sends them with raw corded soles. The fibers are very, very tiny, which kind of align to the originals a little bit better. The sole pattern is dead on to original pattern. You can see there's 2 lines of stitching, which is accurate for boondockers, and then there's also the tack nails that are put in around the soles. These are the ones to have for sure. You're gonna have to find them used currently, and it doesn't really look like At the Front's gonna be making these anytime soon. These ones are made in the US. If you're paying about $250 to $300, don't be surprised, but also that's a pretty good price, and these will get you through many events. So look for the At the Front, the older ones with the raw corded soles. Another thing with the boondockers is ensure that the tongue on the boondockers is rough side out. At the Front, unfortunately, did make a run of boondockers that, I don't know if they just slipped through quality control or whatnot, but they had the smooth side out tongue, which is not specifically accurate to how the boondockers were designed. However, there were off contracts. There were some boondockers being manufactured in Australia that may or may not have had that feature. More research is kind of needed for that to really slap the table to determine the authenticity of that. For socks, I just use originals. You can find them on eBay pretty cheap. So you hear about the Marines wearing like a gray knit sock or a white sock. There are reproductions through a company called South Union Mills. They're actually Civil War socks, but when compared to original World War II socks, they're dead on. For leggings, these are going to be very impression dependent. I really only recommend original leggings. You can still find them on eBay or through dealers. Reproduction leggings, while they typically are going to be made in bigger sizes, they just don't fit properly, and typically the wrong hardware and weave of canvas is being used. Shorts, kind of bottom line up front, is COVID really killed a lot of the textile industry. So a lot of the canvases and materials being used for reproduction gear is it's just not as tightly woven as it should be. And the kind of overall feel and manipulation of the fabric is just not, not what you really want for World War II. So these are the Marine Corps leggings. They have 6 eyelets. These ones have the depot stamp, which is kind of faint. And then they also had a tag. I think this one may still have the Philadelphia Marine Corps Depot tag in it. Yeah, so size 4, Philadelphia Depot. So you can go with the Marine Corps ones. Another good option is the Army leggings. Once again, kind of dependent on which campaign you are portraying. So kind of my advice to people coming into the hobby or looking to improve their impression is really less is more. You see guys these days that just want to have all the cool gear, different belts, different pouches. That's great and all, but really once you start studying the footage, studying photographs in details, a lot of times Marines are just simply on patrol with their utilities, their weapon system, and their helmet. Sometimes a canteen thrown into a pocket. So when you're kind of building your impression or looking to improve it, just try to apply that to your philosophy. Less is more. You don't need everything brand new right off the shelf. You can use M1928 Army canteen covers. We recommend M1924 first aid pouches, which I'm going to do another video more on the web gear and how that's worn and things like that. But just try to simplify things, do your research, study the photographs. There's plenty of stuff on YouTube, original reels. You can see how guys wore their equipment, what position they were on the belt, and different pack setups, things like that. So I appreciate you guys watching this video. It was a little long, but I really wanted to give you a wave top of what a good Marine Corps World War II impression should consist of. So I appreciate you guys. I appreciate your time. Take care, and we'll see you out there.